that we know how to do that. Oh, so now it says we're live, but it doesn't show a little chat. Oh, there's a chat.
Is there? You see it, I don't.
Okay. Anyway, if there's a chat,
Exciting.
We do have 0 viewers, though.
Well, we'll start tweeting in now that we know what we're doing.
Yeah, we should. Hey, all, we're going to tweet you. We figured it out.
Oh my goodness, this is hilarious.
That was cool. I told you it was going to be a gong show.
Well, I'm glad we figured it out now, though. And
yeah,
then we can get it rolling. You're going to have to help me on my end next time.
Yeah. This will work out better when we have guests.
Yes.
We figured it out. Come join.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say, too. Well, actually, I'm going to take a picture, and then I'm going to be like, oops, I took a picture. Ouch. All right. Exciting stuff. So did you delete the first video?
I deleted like 2 of them. I was just like, this is awkward. This is awkward. Goodbye. Abort.
Hilarious. Okay. I'm going to take a selfie with this, and we'll see what it works out to be.
I went mean the way you leave.
Okay. I'm going to tweet it and say, come and join, come and join.
We figured it out.
Yeah, I guess you can start the introductions and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and then if people show up.
Yeah. If not, you can actually keep it on your site so people can watch it later.
Join later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then once they figured out that we actually know how to do live shows, they can come hang out with us.
We just like books, not technical stuff.
Yeah. I've lied on my resume saying that I pick up computer programs quickly.
Well, we did. It just takes a half an hour. Depends on how quick you want it.
Well, I should have started this like a half an hour ago and be like, well, we did start, but like, a half an hour before the show.
Yeah, did you put a link on your Twitter account?
I don't know. Can I put a link on my Twitter account?
I don't know. That's what I was gonna try to do for the tweet. Then they can just link to it.
But I don't want to put this link on it and then have everybody actually join the video part. It's like, not what I meant.
Not this link, no.
No.
Well, anyways, if you have your channel up there, you can go to it. Yeah. I added you on there. So, okay, let's get going.
All right. So this is the late but better than ever live show for our first ever book chat for the Lesson and Love and Murder by Rachel McMillan. I am Angela from Coffee&Chapters. Hello. And this is
Melanie, and I'm from Christian Y Books and More.
So Melanie and I connected and realized we both really love young adult Christian fiction, and we found that it is both a genre that is getting better from when we were young adults and a genre that nobody really talks about on here. So we wanted to start a Goodreads group, which we did, and then start doing a live show because we're both booktubers. So welcome to our technology awkward first live show. And I'm trying to follow a script because Melanie and I wrote ourselves a script. So we wouldn't go all everywhere. So our first, So we are taking turns hosting each channel. So obviously I'm hosting the first one, and then Melanie will be hosting October's book. So our first book is A Lesson in Love and Murder by Rachel McMillan. And this book is the second book in the Herringford and Watson mystery series, the first book being The Bachelor Girl's Guide to Murder. And I really love the titles of these. Like, if people didn't know what it was about and they're asking me what I read, and like I'm single, so if people ask me what I read, it's like, oh, The Bachelor Girl's Guide to Murder. I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do too much of synopsis of this one. Well, I guess I can because it's a live show. It spoils anyway. But so it takes like a Sherlock and Watson gender swap, and it's set in Toronto, Canada. Melanie and I are also both in Canada, so that's awesome. So it follows Miranda Herringford and Jem Watts continuing to develop their detecting skills. Toronto has been thrown in upheaval by the arrival of an anarchist, Emma Goldman, and their following a lead trying to find the cousin of Benny. I can't say his last name. I'm terrible at names, but they.
Oh, what is his name anyway? Oh, Citron or something.
Yeah.
Citron? I don't know.
I don't know. He is part of the Royal Northwest Mounted Police, and he is following his runaway cousin, and he is a man with his cousin is a man with a deadly talent. Miranda eagerly accepts the case and finds herself constantly butting heads and hearts with Benny. Has her hands full with a husband who's determined to keep her out of harm's way, and then this book takes them to Chicago, following the trail of Benny's cousin, and where they are to protect presidential candidate Theodore Roosevelt from a sinister plot. So they end up in the States, set in Canada. We have a Northwest Mounted Police, which is like a Canadian icon.
Yeah.
So here we go. So then we're just going to give our overall thoughts of what we both thought of the book, and also our favorite quote, which I have somewhere on my screen with all of these windows. I have like a million windows open.
I know. I had it too when we were trying to figure everything out. And I was like, I need to close some things down.
I'd be surprised if we both have the same quote, but.
Oh, that'd be interesting. I don't know. Okay, so do you want me to go ahead and say what my overall thought is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And okay, one thing I have to say, I mean, who doesn't love all these like cute little like icons in there? Like, I loved it. And then I went back on the first book and was like, what's in the first book? Because I don't even remember, like, and they had some really neat stuff, and they have like a bomb thing and stuff. I just love this cover. But because it's like a matte finish, all my fingerprints literally are all over.
So gross.
You don't want to eat chips or anything with that.
I think I had Cheetos once with these, and I'm keeping my Cheeto hand away from it and like holding the book over here. Yeah.
That's so funny. Anyways, yeah, but I thought it was really good. Like, I can't wait to dive into like some of the character stuff, and like I have a whole stuff that I thought was really, really neat about this book. And I just can't wait to get into the voice, but that's kind of further down. But overall thoughts, it was a good book. It's still quirky and fun, and but it was interesting. She had different things in here. I thought it was kind of neat how they went to Chicago, because after I read the book, I actually researched like some of the bombings, and I was like, was that even in Toronto? Like, what? And it was, but it was mostly in Chicago and like down in the States. So I thought that was kind of neat that she brought her characters into the States and kind of brought light to that history too.
Yeah. My turn? Or
Yeah.
Oh no, your favorite quote.
Oh, my favorite quote. Okay, I gotta find it. Hold on a second. And I need my glasses now. I can't be as cool anymore. But I need glasses. Okay, so my favorite quote is, he stroked the underwood gently. Some nights it was his dearest friend. And that just speaks to the writer in me. It was so good.
Okay, well, we don't have the same quote. But, so overall, I did enjoy it as well. I only gave it a 3-star just because for a mystery novel, I didn't find like it was very character focused and didn't really build up a mystery that I wanted to know what happened, or I couldn't wait to find out what happened or anything.
Yeah.
So the mystery part of it really lacked for me, so I only gave it a 3-star rating. But I really liked, there was more development in some of the relationships in this one.
Totally.
I like to where she takes her characters and just, I related to a lot of the characters. Just, they have moments where I personally really relate to them. So I really enjoyed that part. And yeah, overall it was a good read. I really like the gender swap Sherlock and Watson aspect of it. I guess it's not Herringford and Watson anymore because she changed her last name.
I know, it's just DeLuca or something.
Herringford and DeLuca, that almost works, but not as well as Watts.
Not as good as Watts.
But yeah, and I guess this also reminds me a lot about the show Murdoch Mysteries, which is also set in Canada.
Totally.
It's also set in Toronto. And so the 2 main female characters in that show are both doctors and morticians. And honestly, if those two women were to do their own detective company, that would be these two women. That's just what I thought of. So my favorite quote actually is, God is the greatest mystery, and when you believe in something, no matter how grand, no matter how invincible, you are willing to do anything, however preposterous, to see it to its solution.
That is amazing, because I actually was going to talk about that in our faith element stuff, because I know that was so cool. God is the best mystery. I really love that quote.
Yeah, I found it on Goodreads. It's actually the only quote on here from the book on Goodreads.
What?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, maybe it's on here, because I couldn't remember. Well, I didn't mark anything, like no tabs, nothing.
Oh my goodness, I doggy-eared everything, and I know. But I didn't have any note sticky things. So then
I know, I need to buy some.
I need something to remind me. And so I doggy-eared all of them. It's so bad.
That's like book sacrilege right there.
I know.
Haters. You're a writer.
I know.
Okay. So that's what I really liked. And I guess now we can kind of break it down. And there's still nobody chatting.
What? People.
Hi, guys.
People.
Well,
come join us.
We need a celebrity endorsement. So when we have Sarah Ella on here, we'll have
Yes. Yeah, probably.
Celebrity endorsement. So then we kind of broke it down to look at specifics. And I guess the first topic is characters. So Rachel McMillan has really fantastic characters and even side characters. And so, yeah, Melanie, take it away.
All right. So the characters are really interesting. And I think it plays a little bit with the voice of like how Rachel writes and stuff too, like her voice and the characters. But Miranda is a really interesting character. Like, I just find her very funny. And like, she's so, I don't know. What was like one word that you would describe Miranda?
Cracker Jacks.
Totally.
She's got gumption.
She does. She's kind of like on the fly and just kind of does her thing. And she's kind of explosive sometimes, and you're not sure what she's going to go do.
Yeah, exactly.
She's funny. But I was going to ask you, so then Jem is kind of like the more reasonable kind of side, but then she's kind of just, she'll make decisions on the whim too.
Yeah.
Like, she sticks to them. Like, doesn't matter. She just sticks to them, even if it costs people lives, you know?
Well, I found the two of them, like, Miranda likes to push boundaries and push stereotypes on what women are to be in that time period. And Jem still has that happy home mindset, but then even in her marriage and in her home, she has a whole different of what the ideal is.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, they don't have the perfect house or anything.
And I think it's hard for them. They're trying to find this balance between like working, being single, and now a relationship where they're just kind of like, okay. And then with that she finds out later on that she's having a baby. I mean, like, it's like, okay, now I need to think of the future and of my family. And she's still, though, struggling with the independence part of everything and roles. And I thought that was kind of neat, like bring up an issue of like how it is really hard to like work and be a mom or whatever like that. And back then, to have that kind of a job was like looked down upon even. So it's like this,
or not existent.
It's completely non-existent. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think too, like, their relationship has taken a different turn, because in the first book, and this is where I identify with the girls a lot, where I kind of want to be Miranda and just be out there and do my own thing and just want to, I don't know, she's got this gumption you wish you had in your own life, and this independence and this fearlessness. Yeah. But at the same time, with Jem, you still in the background have that mind of families settling down, and that's what Jem had. But I think what I identified too is Jem, and this is, I don't know, this came from a really personal place actually with So one of my best friends just recently got married, and she was like a firm spinster. Like she was like, I'm never getting married. And she got married. And
That's
I thought about it a lot this summer. And then when this book happened, Jem is still very, well, I'm still going to do this job, even if I'm 9 months pregnant. And it's like, yeah, no, you're not. And there's still that, like, your friends are always telling you, oh, I'm just getting married. I'm not changing everything. Everything will still be the same. And nothing's going to change between our friendship. And
it does.
I'm the single one out of my friend group, so I'm sitting here thinking, no,
It's hard.
It changes.
That reminds me when she said, when she goes, oh, what does she say? I have it written down here somewhere where she goes, don't leave me behind.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that? She said, don't leave me
Yeah.
behind, Gemma, or something like that. And it was just so like, you got a glimpse of like her real feelings underneath all like the facade she kind of puts on.
Yeah, exactly.
You saw her underneath going, she's going to miss her friend. Yeah, it was really touching.
I think that part for me was the extent, like, where I saw their friendship really grow, because you don't see a lot of Miranda's heart, or
no, she's crazy.
Like, you don't see a lot that Miranda, she always seems so absent-minded, and not that she's even aware of people around her. But then when she has these moments, you realize how deeply she cares about the people in her life.
Exactly.
I mean, even to the point of giving Ray DeLuca a bloody nose just for.
That was so funny. I was like, what?
I'm like, what did he do? Oh yeah, he left her the way he did.
I
know. And so she just goes and punches Ray in the nose, and I'm like, okay, I guess he deserves that. But you see how much she cares about Jem.
Yeah, and you know, Jem was like, I totally am down with that. You go, girl. But now her husband.
And Ray's sitting there like, I deserve that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And I guess you, like, along with the girls, it's also all the side characters. Like, we get Benny now, and then there was Jasper from the first book.
Oh, this is so hard.
Ray. Yeah.
Jasper and Benny, like, that was really hard for me. I was like, what is happening? Wait, I like Jasper. What's going on?
I know. I was like, this is a really weird love triangle, because Miranda doesn't realize it's a love triangle, or she doesn't care if it is. And Jasper's really shy and reserved and quiet. He actually reminds me a lot about Murdoch from Murdoch Mysteries.
Yeah,
Murdoch
totally.
was like that. And Murdoch's also very set in his faith, and Jasper was. And I think the iconic moment for me for Jasper was, like, there's nothing bad I could say about Jasper. And I think Rachel both told us on Twitter to spare Jasper. And
he was so great.
He was. Like, there's nothing bad we can say about him. And I think my biggest part for him was realizing that Miranda doesn't share the faith he does, and either deciding, like, hoping that she does soon discover that, or being willing to leave that alone, and realizing that if she doesn't, he can't be with her because he values his faith.
Yeah.
So I really like that when a man is written that way.
Absolutely.
So that was a big part of his integrity.
It was really, really nice to see that, actually, and defining the difference between the two and how it did affect their relationship, because it is valued to him, and I thought that was really good.
Yeah. Benny, I don't know. I liked him, but then I didn't like him. Like, he's so, like, I grew up in the Winnipeg, Regina, like, when they started talking about Yorkton, Winnipeg, Regina.
I thought it was cool, hey?
Yeah, but, like, when they started talking about all those wilderness parts of the prairies, that, like, spoke home to me, and I'm like, oh, man. And I could totally picture the type of guy he is, with, like, the snowshoeing and, like,
oh, I know,
because I have a Métis background, so I heard a lot of stories like that from my grandfather, who was a Métis trapper, and so
cool.
so just hearing stuff like that, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this guy, just because I grew up in that area, so I kind of know I mean, not to put the Saskatchewan Manitoba guys down or anything. That's just, I was like, you guys are very, he is very wilderness set and very, he was almost too dedicated to things. I don't know. It's not a bad thing, I guess.
I love like okay, I have a couple thoughts going on right now. I love the idea that she brought in like that that wilderness like right in the beginning of like the chapter, she'll have either have like of the Wheaton or the guide to domestic bliss or and that wilderness part. It was so good. I hope she writes a book because it's actually fictional. Because I thought that was so cool. And the fact that like you said with Regina and stuff like that, like I'm from the West Coast, but it's all wilderness here. Like I had bears out in my front yard just the other day. You know, like so I totally was like, yeah, dude, I get that. I get that. It was so Canadian.
It was, he was so Canadian. I don't know what it is though. Like there's something about, I guess I think what it is I love Jasper more.
Well, and this was the problem.
Yeah.
It was like, I love you, you're Canadian, but maybe you're not so right for Miranda.
Yeah. I want Jasper to be right for Miranda.
Yeah.
But I think though at the end of the book where he comes in his uniform and Miranda's just like, whoa, I can relate. Like
yes.
That was like,
it's the Canadian Mountie suit.
We love our Mounties.
We do. We're very proud of them. But they're also like, I just like their, you know why I really love the Mounties is back. I don't know if you ever read Jeanette Oakes, like all of her books with the Canadian West and all that stuff.
I read some of her books, but that was like ages ago.
There was one about he's a Mountie, right? And so it talks about him and how like he goes into these rural places more close to northern Canada, and how he with the natives kind of has that, he keeps it all balanced and like he treats them fairly and the people fairly, and so it's like you can trust them. I don't know, it's really good, so good.
Well, they even said in the book, like, if you can't trust a Mountie, who can you trust?
Oh, I know, like it was awesome.
I mean, our RCMP guys, like, I say we have like one of the best police forces in the world.
We do. I think so too. Very cool.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Yeah. I think we're still on characters, but
who else are we? So you were talking about side characters. So there's Benny. We really love Benny, but
we established we love Benny.
We love Benny, but we're just Jasper winners. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then who else was the side characters? So she brought in a couple other ones, like Tony and Viola are main side characters that are in the book as well. And
I found those two really annoyed me because like I just wanted Viola to leave Tony and just like
leave him.
How can you be like, I'm not an advocate for divorce, okay? I'm not an advocate for divorce, but I was just like, Viola, take your son and leave that loser. Like,
it's so hard. Like, you know, it brought up a lot of issues for me because I was like, wow, like when you're dealing with like people that are getting beaten in their marriage, you know, or like a complete neglect of care, and you know, your role as a husband is to take care of them, you know. I mean, there's so much you can do as a wife too, but in the sense it's like, if in that day and age she didn't have a job to go to, it's up to him to provide for her, you know. We're so fortunate now. We have so many things we can use and go do and whatever. But then, I mean, it was a big thing, you know. And so he just really, man, I had a hard time liking him.
Yeah, I definitely had a hard time liking him. And as much as I wanted Viola to leave him, yeah, you still think about what the consequences were of her doing that. But then she did have Ray to take care of her. And he offered so many times, but then she's like, well, once your family comes, you can't as much. But even Jim was willing to allow Tony to keep helping his family, knowing that's that's why she fell in love with him, is because of the care he had for his
You know, yeah, I
sister
think
and
she even
nephew.
said that in there. She said
Mhm.
those words, yeah. It was just really sad to see. And then the poor little boy, but in the end, oh, I don't know if that consequence was any better.
Oh no, I know, it's like, oh well, that sucked.
I don't
It's
know
like,
how she's going to rectify that in the next book.
I mean, I wasn't even happy that it happened. I was kind of
I
hoping
was
that
so sad.
I was so hoping that they would like
I don't even,
come to some, like, at least Jasper arresting him or something, or
I know.
like, you know.
Oh, it was hard. And then actually, I don't even know, like, I was kind of lost in that scene when it happened anyways. Like, I wasn't sure where I
Yeah,
was. And then I'm like, oh, what was happening? What's happening here? Oh my goodness, you know? And
you almost have to go back a page and like, okay, what just
I
happened?
totally did. Yeah. And then, but then I was like so shocked that that was what was happening that I was just like, oh man. I just kept feeling for Viola. But you know, it brought up a lot of like real issues, you know, in like just even life today
Yeah,
that people can
yeah,
relate to.
it's still so very prevalent, and that's what I liked about her characters too. Is like there's still so many relatable things to them. Like even just Miranda and Jim and their kind of women's rights. Like women's rights is this a constant battle. Like anybody's rights is always a constant battle because you're always butting heads with people's beliefs and stuff. And this was a
Yeah.
big thing on butting heads with people's beliefs and Miranda even. But I guess we'll get into that in a bit. But um, so we should move on to the mystery part of it. I think we both mentioned that we found
There's
that
not
part.
much. Like, I
No,
feel like it was tons.
like even in the first book, I kind of figured out what happened before it happened. Like I could kind of figure out what was going to happen in the first book.
Yeah.
And then in this book too, it wasn't so much of a mystery. And you still have a mystery of who's behind it all. But I think that's Rachel introducing her Moriarty character.
Yeah.
And that's the thing in a Sherlock type story. You need to introduce the Moriarty, which Miranda was like over the moon. She's like, no, this is my Moriarty. And she's all excited. And we're just like, oh, Miranda.
She loved those moments too where she could figure everything out. And that was kind of fun. I liked in the last book that she did was that like there was that moment where like you weren't sure what was happening behind the scenes and then all of a sudden she just came out and told you like this kind of like she had that moment. What does she call it? I can't remember what she calls it. I
She
don't
calls it like her moment, and then she's always like,
yeah.
gather everyone together, I need to share it. Like
Her golden moment. That's what it is.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so it's so funny because you're like, what is she going to come up with? Like, where is the story going to go? And I kind of like that. But this one, it didn't feel like she said she was going to have it, but she never really did. It didn't feel like she was the one who solved the mystery.
No, and they didn't so much solve the mystery as solve a way to save Roosevelt is
Yeah.
what they did. So the mystery of what was going on never actually got solved, but they did save Roosevelt. So
Yes. Yeah. And I thought that was kind of neat how she brought in that history, that part of the history into the book too, even though it's not so much like Canadian-ish, but
yeah,
still makes a big difference to our country too. So it was kind of neat. She really
yeah,
liked him.
yeah. So I guess we both agree that the mystery part of it was kind of meh.
Eh. Yeah.
Still, I think the characters in the gender swap Sherlock and Watson part really play into it. And I think the main part of anything where you're taking like a Sherlock themed is the relationship between the Sherlock character and the Watson character.
Yeah.
And I haven't read a lot. I actually haven't read any original Sherlock. So I'm actually not too sure if Sir Arthur Conan Doyle even focuses on that relationship or if that's popular culture for us today with
Actually, yeah. I think it's a bit of both because I was looking into that. Actually, I got a new book. I'll show you. I don't know if you can see it. It's a leather bound. I know.
It's pretty.
It is so pretty. Anyways, I was looking through it because of this book, And I was really surprised at some of the similarities and some of the differences between the original Sherlock Holmes writings and what we read in our book today. Because so I kind of wrote it out. So then there is similarities to Sherlock Holmes. There's a quote where, you know, there's a bit of it. Hold on, let me just see. I'll read it exactly. That way I'm not trying to summarize. So, though I see the similarities to Sherlock Holmes, much is not the same. I like how she quoted after Sherlock, because she quoted some of the Sherlock in this one, which I don't think she did in the other one. So I kind of liked it in this one. But I do enjoy the quirky feel and whimsical storyline. In The Sign of Four by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes was very adamant that he didn't want to be in the newspaper. But where these two stories are similar is where the two girls are starting something new and unheard of. Sherlock Holmes and Watson began something new together. In The Sign of the Four, they discuss it, and it says, quote, "That is why I've chosen my own particular profession, or rather created it, for I am the only one in the words." And then Watson says, "The only unofficial detective," I said, raising my eyebrows. "The only unofficial consulting detective," Sherlock Holmes answered. So it's kind of neat how, like, you know, you get their relationship and how it's a bit of a banter. And that's similar to Jem and Miranda.
Yeah.
But then how, like, you know, Miranda really wanted to be in the paper. Like, she sat and did her whole, like, interview for the paper and everything. Yeah. And, you know, in the original, they were, like, not wanting to be in the paper at all.
Yeah. But, like, yeah, like, they still have the banter and stuff. I guess I'm not too sure. But I think a lot of what people think of Sherlock and Watson now is the Benedict Cumberbatch and the Martin Freeman. And they have a banter, and sometimes Sherlock is a bit of a jerk. But then deep down inside, he really cares about Watson and Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, Miranda can sometimes come off as a bit of a jerk and, like, always bellowing for Turkish coffee.
Oh, that was awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And so, yeah, but I guess if you read more of the Sherlock, I guess they still have that similarities of the banter and stuff, but the girls are a bit more flamboyant. I guess.
And flamboyant, yeah.
Yeah, they're women. They're women. Like, it's a completely different, you're right. Women are very different.
So if you were to be Jem or I would be Miranda, what character would be the who? Like, who would you say is who? Because I don't know if I'd be Jem or Miranda, or you'd be Jem or Miranda. That's one of the questions. Nobody's answering questions or whatever, but I thought I'd throw this in there now that we're talking about them. And then,
well, I think it's more I want to be Miranda. Because at this point in my life, like I said, I'm one of the few single in my friend group. I'm almost 30 and I'm still single. So it's like, and you kind of get that, at least maybe, I don't know if it's a church culture thing, but you have so many people asking you, so like, oh, so why are you still single? You're great. It's like, thanks. I get that.
Man.
People ask me that. And it's like, and then I look at Miranda and I'm like, she's single and she's fabulous. Like, she is out there marching around in trousers and just carrying around a crowbar and marching around and doing what she wants and doing her thing and doing it because she loves it and because she enjoys it and living life to the fullest that way.
She's not even thinking about, like, marriage or relationships. She's just kind of like living her life and really happy that, and then love comes to her and she's kind of like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And then she's all like, I don't know what to do. Good guy in uniform. Is this guy even like me? It's Jasper. Like, you know, but yeah, and that's the thing is I noticed too, I think I want to be more like Miranda too. And that's, I know she doesn't have a faith base, but when I look at some characters in some of the other books I've read, and even my friend, she got married this summer, she was so set on being single, but not so much of just, I don't want to get married, but I'm too focused on following God and following his plans for my life. And then just when you have that focus of being that woman who's seeking first God and his plans for you, and then he brings along that person who matches up with those plans and stuff. And I think though that when you get this age, you don't need to panic about all those people asking me like, so are you next? Because like both my sisters are in relationships, so like
Oh man.
one's married, one's engaged, and I'm the middle child. So the younger one,
Oh man, such pressure, such pressure.
yeah, the younger one got
Don't rush
married
into
first.
anything.
Yeah, so like, and then people are like, so are you next? And like, you almost want to be like Miranda and just march off bellowing for Turkish coffee and just like, whatevs.
Yeah, exactly. She cut off a lot of people. Like they would say something, but she'd be like, please let them out the door.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, you just want to do that in real life. So I don't know. I think I'm more of a Miranda character than a Jem character, but with Jem's faith.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, I want to be I know that I'm probably more like Jem, but I want to be like Miranda because she's got all this time and she doesn't have to worry about like relationships or anything else. She just can do what she wants. And it's like, it's so time consuming in a sense. It's such a blessing, but then it's so time consuming too with relationships and stuff. And in your singleness, you can really do a lot, and focus your whole time and focus your heart solely on God. And then when you have kids and they're stealing all your attention and like, the phone's not stop ringing. Like right now, I'm so surprised. Actually, my husband's texting me like, are you done yet? Because he's out with all the kids. So I'm like, oh, it's be Miranda. Go get Turkish coffee for me. But
And when you say with all the kids, you have 5,
yeah.
don't you?
Yeah, I got 5. I had 5 in 5 years, so it's a lot faster than most people would. But
Boy.
we were just crazy. It's a good crazy. But yeah, so I totally relate. I want to be like Miranda, but I'm probably more like Jem.
Yeah. I think every
We make a
woman
good
wants.
team then.
Yay! Look at us. Sweet.
Where are we
I guess
now?
well, we can move on to like writing style,
Oh yeah.
which I'm sure you got a few things to say because you're a writer.
You know what? Rachel's really fun. I love her voice. I find it really unique. Like when you look at voice, I'm glad like in her first one, this one here, like A Lesson in Love and Murder, I found that she was able to differentiate between the characters a lot more. And I found her quirkiness was only in more of Miranda. Where in the last one, I felt like it was kind of throughout the whole book. You felt that quirky, whimsical kind of voice, like, and which I do like. I love it. It's so nice and refreshing compared to other books that we're reading. Like it's really unique. I think it is. What do you think?
I really enjoyed her writing. I think what I enjoy most about her writing is you pick up on her love and passion for history, and even just like catching some of her tweets and her blogs. And I follow her on Instagram as well. And you've been just catching her real life stuff, but then seeing her writing, you really get that she's a history buff, which I love. But then you also get somebody who really loves Toronto and her country. And I think I liked in this book being introduced to more of Canada.
Oh yeah.
And I don't read a lot of Canadian fiction, and I think Canadian fiction gets a bad, like, Canadians themselves get, like, our media gets a bad rap of being boring, which in truth, and sometimes it can be. I'll admit a lot more. That's why a lot more American shows are popular. But anything that's set in Canada or
You don't
about
get
Canada,
the money backing for it. That's why. I'm gonna
yeah,
say
I think that's good. That's good. That's why. But I think what I liked about this one is exploring more of Canada, and especially when you mentioned Winnipeg, Regina. And then what I really liked, like I actually got kind of excited at one point. Benny was, I don't know if it's one of his little anthologies at the beginning of a chapter or if he was describing something to Miranda, but he mentioned Métis warriors.
Yeah.
And I'm Métis in background, and normally, like whenever Métis are brought up, it's not always negative, but it's a history thing. And historically, yes, the Métis, like when you look up any wars in Canada or revolts in Canada, the Louis Riel revolts and the Métis revolts come up. So it's like, yeah, okay, so the Métis, yeah, we're like that. And then actually, fun fact, um, I have some ancestry that the first outlaws in Manitoba, or some of the first outlaws in Manitoba, where my family's originally settled,
Oh,
is
wow.
actually, yeah, my family, my ancestors were some of the first outlaws.
Cool. Wow. Outlaws, but that's cool.
So I always thought that was a bragging point for me, but like it's just because it's a cool historical fact. So I really liked picking up the history of it, and then getting
Totally.
little touches of how diverse Canada is. So you get the immigrants and
Oh,
what
yeah.
Toronto was like, and then you touch on the Aboriginal and the Métis people, and even just throwing the Métis people in, because sometimes Métis get thrown in with Aboriginal, but
It's
there's
all the
almost
same. Yeah.
no, like there's almost a completely different culture, because you also have the French voyageur culture mixed in with an Aboriginal culture.
Totally.
So
I
it's
totally know what
just,
you're talking about because we're Canadian. But anyways, but
yeah.
my husband's half native.
Oh, okay.
He's half Stolo from the BC coast, right?
Yeah.
So it's totally like that. And she also gave a shout out too, actually at the back of the book to someone in Surrey, BC. So even on the West Coast, she mentions the West Coast. It's right in the back. Hold on, let me find
Yeah. I'm like,
it. I think it's some. Hold on a sec.
she had a lot of history things that she shouted out, and even just real people, like using the famous Mountie Samuel Benfield Steele
Oh, I
from
know.
her hometown. Like,
Okay, so oh yeah. So okay. Benny's dedication to the force and his conscience and devotion to duty, as well as Jonathan's ultimate sacrifice in the end, which I thought was really cool,
yes,
was
yeah.
written as a homage to Constable Johnny Baldwinson, who was killed in the line of duty in Surrey, BC, October 28, 1975. So I just love how she combines history of all across Canada, like you're saying. Like she has West Coast, she's got the middle of Canada, and then she's got the East Coast, and then also a shout out to the Métis and Aboriginal history. She really does a good job at like the overall history of Canada.
Yeah, and the thing is, like what I mentioned, like we have boring media. Um, it's a fantastical book. Like it's fun to read. It's lighthearted. I really do like her description of things. Like when Jem was reading the journal of Ray in the first book that she should have
Oh,
returned.
love
Like
that. Love that.
every chapter they had like Jem reading that journal that she should have returned 5 chapters ago.
I
Like,
totally love that. Oh,
but
it's so good.
but part of what she fell in love with Ray is because he had this love for Toronto, and I think Ray's love for Toronto reflects on the author's love for Toronto
Yeah.
and the author's love for her country. So you have a fun, not boring Canadian fiction set in Canada that isn't Anne of Green Gables.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
because I think like what we have for our claim to fame is Anne of Green Gables, and now we can add A Lesson in Love and Murder.
Totally. I agree. I agree. Now we just need to like have some sort of like historical like building named after her, and like
Yeah,
you know, maybe her dad has something that, you know, he can put in a museum or something.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I think it's so cool. And I love the fact that she brings in Sherlock Holmes. I mean, like, who doesn't love Sherlock Holmes? But I think it's more closely related, I think you're right, to Murdoch Mysteries. And kind of a combined of the two elements between Murdoch Mysteries style and
yeah.
Sherlock Holmes base of a storyline.
And Murdoch Mysteries again is another Canadian show, but
No.
it's a fantastic Canadian show that just does not get enough love. But again, it's got that lower budget for it. but the actors are
My
just.
mom seriously loves that show.
I know, my mom and I love it, and I wanted to start from the beginning because I think my mom has seen almost every episode except for the newer seasons. And on Netflix, all they have is season 7 or 6, 7, and 8.
I don't even watch it very much.
I want to start from the first one.
Wow. My mom, she's totally right into all that stuff. So I know about it through her. She's just like so funny. And if I'm there, like she has it on in the background.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I absolutely like that show. It just reminded me. And again, that's another great Canadian show that has great writing because it also incorporates real Canadian history, like of course, but it incorporates real history because I think Roosevelt's been in it, Edison's been in it. They've had these characters, these iconic American and Canadian characters. They've had iconic American and Canadian historical figures, and I think they even had an episode about hockey.
Oh, really?
Which is like iconically Canadian, and I think that's my favorite episode.
You know what else is iconically Canadian, and not very many people know that, is basketball was actually made in Canada.
It's true, but
Yeah.
I think all we have are the Toronto Raptors.
I don't think we actually like. I don't know if. Yeah, I think it was just made here.
Yeah, I think the Americans took it from us, but hockey is still ours because we still dominate that sport. But no,
Yeah.
they had a Murdoch Mysteries hockey episode, and at the end of it, Murdoch and all the police and George and the constable are all out playing on the street, playing hockey the way we would do in Canada. And then they say carriage, and then they move all the nets and stuff, and they're like, okay, game's back on. Like the way we would be like, car, game on.
Well, it totally is like that for sure. And then also that's so Canadian. And then even in Alberta right now, they Zamboni lakes for the kids in the park so they can play hockey. I mean, it's all about
it's like, yeah, I think like most of the prairie provinces right now have snow. So I know.
Did you get snow?
We got snow. We got snow.
My sister told me you guys got snow. We have rain. That's all we have.
Well, yeah, you guys only get rain.
I know.
So
warm rain. We get rain.
This is Canadian weather for you guys. It just cannot make up its mind. Like we still have leaves on the tree. It's like outside. You look outside. It's like, oh, I don't know if I want to be fall or winter. Like.
Totally.
Yeah, so people are going to be wondering, like, because we have a lot of parks in our city, so they're going to be setting up all the rinks and stuff pretty soon now. And Michael's has its Christmas stuff out, and I'm like, oh, let's just skip Halloween.
Yeah.
But no, I think, well, getting back to the book, we digress.
I know.
Which is why I made an outline. But, okay.
I think we're on to
faith elements?
Yeah, we're on the faith elements, which we already mentioned a bit. And you know what? I was going to totally say that quote that you mentioned. So
see, I called it.
That was the best, though. It really was. And I searched through all of it, and I thought, oh my goodness, that God is the greatest mystery. Just that period alone is just like so cool. But like how she describes it after, like when you said, and when you believe in something, no matter how grand, no matter how invincible, you are willing to do anything, however preposterous, to see it to its solution. I love it. I love it.
And I think what I found, what the great part about it was, is it's about, Jem says this to Miranda, I think. I think Jem says it to Miranda. Because Miranda's looking at this anarchist, Betty, what's her name, I think?
Goldman.
Yeah. So you have this Emma Goldman. So you have Emma Goldman. So you have this anarchist who has her beliefs. And then you have the one that Miranda and Ben, Ross. See, you remember all of these things.
I like the characters.
So, and then you have Ross, who's so firm on his beliefs and what he stands for, and Miranda's trying to get in with all of these people. So she also looks like she has to have the strong belief of a cause. And I think the difference between her, Jem, Ray, and Jasper is Jasper, Ray, and Jem also strongly believe on the rights of immigrants and women in the city, but they have a different backing for it. They have the knowledge of everybody is precious in God's sight. Everyone should be created, or everyone has been created equal. Everyone should have proper treatment deserving of human beings, and they should be loved and cared for and treated correctly. And they also have that same passion, but they also have different things guiding them with that.
Yeah.
And Miranda's floundering around because she doesn't have that stronger belief in the background to give root to what she's trying to pull with having a vendetta or something to prove or something to believe.
It tested her faith. Like, it tested who she was inside and her identity, and what motivated her, what was the motive for her in all of this. And everybody had a motive except for her. Like you said, she was kind of floundering and just wondering what was her motive, because she's here trying to help in this case and trying to find this man. That was her motive, really. But really underneath, she wasn't really sure who she was or what she believed in or what was her real motive in everything.
Yeah, especially after seeing so many people who so strongly believe in something, and she doesn't really have anything to fall back on when her intellect gives out. And I think Jem and her had that good moment where Jem was able to just say that, and it fits so well of what Miranda was struggling with. Instead of brushing her off like Miranda normally did when it came to the conversation of God, she kind of took a moment. And I think that this might be like the opening of Miranda's eyes a bit more.
Yeah.
And for the conversation, I think so. Though too, I don't think the faith element is prevalent through most of the book.
No. Yeah,
but the elements.
Right. It was. I think you're right. It did kind of. It wasn't like a huge topic at all, but it was kind of like an undercurrent, and then it kind of came up and popped its head out at the end, and then kind of made a statement. But that, I think the timing of it was perfect, because you had some tragedy, you had some questionable things, you had a lot of heartbreak and kind of and this movement that was so strong, and you had to really know, okay, where am I going in all this? I think it was a perfect timing, and Jem just kind of stepped up and said, yeah, I'll witness you, I'll tell you about the Lord.
Yeah.
It was so cute.
Yeah. It was we had a viewer for a moment.
Did we?
And now we're back to zero. I have no idea how this live show thing works.
Hi and bye.
But yeah, no, I think the faith element, because it wasn't even a main theme in the first book either. And I think that's what I like about these books, is they're not the main, that's not the main part of them. But when the parts do come up, they're really prevalent. Like, they are really, what's the word I'm looking for?
They stand out to you.
Yeah, and because in the first book, I think the faith element in the first book, actually, even just individually, I really resonated with, was when Jem's walking out of one of the cathedrals or whatever, and just has this complete God moment of peace, of not knowing where her life ends up, of not knowing these feelings for this man she's developing, and just almost this like, I don't care what happens next, just lead me kind of moment.
Yeah.
Before she got kidnapped. But it was just this great moment of peace for her, and it was just such a great moment and a really strong moment in her character. But that was it in the book. And same with this one. It was just Jem saying her piece really quietly, gently, and then that was it. But it was really
profound. It was
profound.
Very
yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I think those novellas are kind of important when you're reading these books, because I do feel like it kind of, I missed something in between the two books. And even sometimes in the writing, I feel like it was kind of like you almost got like beamed up and moved over, and you kind of I was just like, whoa, that was fast. But I think that a good tip is to read those two novellas, because they are, I think, kind of important too. Like you were mentioning it too on our group, that they are important. I think they really are, because
and the first one, it even says it's a prequel novella. Don't read it until you've read the first book, even though it's a prequel novella, because I find that having the introduction to the world and to the main story in the first book and the characters, and then reading the prequel novella, because the prequel novella actually happens during the first book, and it's some of their little side cases they've taken on while the big one's getting while they're fighting for the bigger case. And I haven't read the second novella yet, but they go to the States in the second novella the first time.
Oh, okay.
And you caught a lot of the footnotes in the bottom from those novellas or going back to things. And I think one of the footnotes was Miranda saying something like, oh, we'll just go to Chicago, no big deal. And then, or I'll just book rooms. And then the footnote's like, actually, it's her father's money, which we all know she doesn't really watch. Like,
Yes.
from previous experiences, we know she just takes off. And we didn't have that previous experience of her taking off.
Right. And I loved having those footnotes, and that does kind of salvage those moments where you're like, what, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I think those would be helpful reading those. But I think even if you just pick these two up, they're really cool and really cute all together.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah, and actually, I think we've almost been running for an hour, so
We should probably end, yeah, because my husband's like,
yeah,
"Are you coming now?
your husband wants to come
Rescue me."
home.
He actually said that. He says, "Rescue me."
Well, you did leave him with 5 kids by himself.
Well, I think they're skating, playing, they're doing hockey stuff, and so
Oh,
I think it ends, and then he's just gonna be like hanging out there for a while.
all right. Well, we'll wrap it up to save Melanie's husband. So yeah, this is. I really enjoyed this book. I like that we picked it. I know a couple people had trouble, like Melanie, trouble getting it in time.
Oh,
And I think
that was hard.
that's the downside of, because Harvest House, like, I think it's a smaller publishing company.
Yeah.
But I went to my Christian bookstore the other day, and there's like 6 of them sitting there. So I was like, oh look, they're in stock here.
Put a
I was gonna
to
take
me.
Yeah. So I think
faster.
I think a lot of people had trouble getting a hold of this. So I did post our next books for the rest of the year on the group already. So if you guys who are going to be watching this, that the next book is, of course, Unblemished by Sarah Ella. And then, I'll leave that rest of the announcements for you, Melanie. And
go ahead. You can go ahead, and I'll wrap it up again with it.
Okay. And then the book after that is going to be The Silent Songbird, which is the 7th book in the Hagenheim fairy tale telling. You don't have to read all of them, but at least read like The Merchant's Daughter to get a good background of them. But if you want to read all 7, now you have time before the book comes out. Mm-hmm. And then the next book after that in December is going to be Can't Help Falling. And that book is out in October, but if you want to hold off on that until December, you guys can. So I put all of those on the Goodreads group for you guys. And yeah, Melanie is going to be hosting our next live show on her channel. We are sharing hosting duties, so hopefully we won't have the same technological problems.
It might be worse than mine.
So Melanie, what are we doing next month?
We'll definitely announce it on our group because it's going to be at the end of November, but it's going to be Sarah Ella's Unblemished, like you had already said. And I'm so, she's got the book there. Yay! And Sarah Ella actually mentioned on her her YouTube channel, so we're really excited. Come join us and join in on the fun. If not, please put your questions or whatever you want to have us in the discussion now that you know what we're like and how we do things, and then you can be a part of it. We would love to have you guys for these shows. And also in that live show, Sarah Ella is going to be joining us. I totally forgot. She's going to be there. I mean, how cool is that? She's going to be with us. She gets to have our awkward moments. This is going to be awesome. Yeah. And that's actually like, so it's great because Melanie and I, like, we're in Canada. We're obviously not in the same provinces, but we've never met. So this is our first time actually talking, not on Twitter. That's really cool. And actually, we became friends when Sarah Ella did a shout out for Melanie's channel on her channel. So because of Melanie's channel title, Christian YA Books and More,
I was like, ooh, I need to go and meet this girl. And then I saw the Anomaly trilogy and Melanie Dickerson books on her shelf, and I said, okay, we're gonna be friends.
Yeah.
And so Sarah Ella was the reason that Melanie and I even connected and started all of this. So we're excited to have her on here as well.
Absolutely. And she's just awesome. So all of us, we're going to be like the Three
Yeah.
Stooges, and it's going to be awesome.
And if you guys want more info on Unblemished, my video review is up because I was one of Sarah Ella's street team. So you guys can go check out my review. There's also a couple like Trina and Casey, so you guys can check out their reviews as well. And I think that's going to be it for us. So we will announce the date on Twitter and Goodreads.
Yes, I'm sorry I don't have it yet.
We're trying to plan 3 different time zones with 3 different people, two of which are busy moms, and the third is trying to get a job. So it's a lot to schedule, but we will keep you guys in the know, and probably toward end of October, early November.
Yeah, that's it.
And yeah. So yeah, that's it for us today. So next one will be on Melanie's channel. You should go subscribe to her if you haven't already.
Oh, thank you. And you should do the
You're
same
welcome.
for Angela's.
So yeah, and I think that's it for us. So we're gonna say goodbye and end this broadcast. Bye.
Bye.